Welcome to Life Lessons from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Before we begin our discussion, we can chant some prayers of invocation. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 40. Srimad idam Bhagavatam nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasya Lokasya Dhanyam Swastyanyanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Read a couple more. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 3, text 41. Tad idam grammayam asha sutam atma mavambaram sarvaveditah sanam sharam samudritam. Srila Vyasadeva delivered it to his son, who is the most respected among the self-realized, after extracting the cream of all Vedic literatures and histories of the universe. One more. Text 42. Satu samshravayam asa maharajam parikshitam prayopavasitam gangyam paritam paramarshibi. Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, in his turn delivered the Srimad Bhagavatam to the great emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganges, awaiting death without drinking food or drink. Jai. So let me honor some of you who have arrived by just saying hello. Thank you for checking in. Ananda Kirtan is with us from Sydney, Australia. And Ananda says, Hare Krishna. Welcome, Ananda. Joan is with us also from Sydney, Australia. Or possibly Moolamba. I never know with you. And Joan says, Hari Bol. Shama Manjari joining us from South Africa says, Hare Krishna, Sri Prahlad Prabhuji, and all devotees. Thank you, Shama Manjari, joining us from South Africa. Kirti Das with us from Norway, sending gratitude. Tulsi and flowers. Nikunja is with us from Auckland, New Zealand. Nikunja says, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Welcome, Nikunja. I'm guessing you're at work, listening with maybe from your phone. And then Alicia's with us as well from Auckland, New Zealand. Alicia says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, hope you're safe and well. We're finally doing the Rath Yatra cart this weekend after 3 long years of not doing it. How amazing is that, Alicia? Incredible. I think Auckland might have had some smaller Rath Yatras, but then the big cart that you pull down Queen Street, maybe that's after 3 years. So that's very exciting. Otherwise, I think Auckland does lots of Rath Yatras. How wonderful to be with you all for further discussions of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are today discussing we're continuing with the 10th canto, and we'll be discussing chapter 55. This concerns Krishna and Rukmini's son, Pradyumna. Now, if you remember, in our last class, we discussed Krishna's marriage to Rukmini. Rukmini had sent a message to Krishna, inviting him to kidnap her and marry her according to the Rakshasa process. And now we pick up from that with a discussion of their son, Pradyumna. Our topic, Conquering Cupid, the birth of Pradyumna. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 55. in this world, we all struggle with lust. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 37, calls lust the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world. So how to deal with lust? Excuse me. How to deal with lust, particularly when it has colonized our senses. Bilva Mangala Thakur, he gouged his eyes, which I would not recommend for any of us. It is not our recommended process. Krishna, in the 3rd chapter of the Gita, where he raises this point of lust, he tells Arjuna it takes controlling the senses with the help of the buddhi, that is the intelligence, and then higher than the buddhi is the self, the soul. So as aspiring bhakti yogis, we are attempting to do this, but what does it mean in practical terms? The impersonalists, they try to employ the buddhi in shutting down desire altogether, closing off the senses. In bhakti, we seek instead to transmute desire through rechanneling, and it takes different forms. So we'll get some hints today in discussing the story of the birth of Pradyumna. Once again, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 55. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We will discuss under 3 headings. The first, birth of Pradyumna, verses 1 to 9. 2, Mayavati reveals Pradyumna's identity, verses 10 to 25, and then Pradyumna's return to Dwaraka, verses 26 to 40. Excuse me again. So we begin with the birth of Pradyumna. Sukadeva Goswami begins this chapter by telling us that Kamadev, that is Cupid, an expansion of Lord Vasudeva, had been burned to ashes by Lord Shiva. It's a story, it's a famous story of the demigods wanting to arouse desire within Shiva. And so they sent, after Sati had given up her life, the demigods, they were told that they would get a commander-in-chief if Shiva were to have a son. But he wasn't married at that time. But there was a girl who was Sati reborn as the daughter of the Himalayan mountains, Parvati. And so, but Shiva wasn't showing any interest. Parvati was going each day and taking flowers for him and doing service for him. And he was just in his meditation. So they sent Indra, he sent Cupid along with Rati, Spring, to try to move things along. And Shiva opened his 3rd eye and burned Cupid to ashes. Well, Srimad Bhagavatam tells us that this Kamadev was born in the womb of Rukmini. In fact, it was a partial part of Kamadev, who was born along with the original Cupid, who was a manifestation of Krishna, that is Pradyumna. So Krishna appearing as, or his expansion appearing as his son, the son of he and Rukmini, and along with him is coming his part, his Amsa, and that is Kama, or Cupid. Now, shortly, like 6 days after Pradyumna was born, a demon named Shambhara, thinking Pradyumna to be his enemy, kidnapped the child from the maternity room and threw him into the ocean and returned to his kingdom. A powerful fish swallowed the baby, and then the fish itself was caught by a fisherman in its net and presented to the very same demon, Shambhara, who had it sent to his kitchen, and when the cooks cut open the fish, they found the living child within the fish's belly. And so the cooks gave this child to one of the maidservants in the palace. Her name was Mayavati, and she was in fact reborn Rati, the wife of Cupid. She had learned from Narada Muni that her husband would reappear in Shambhara's palace, and so she was waiting for him. And so Narada Muni arrived and told her, this is the reborn husband of yours, Cupid himself, in the form of this baby. And so she raised the child, waiting for him to become strong and able. And but once he grew older, she started to feel affection for him. Initially it was motherly, and then it started to change towards other affection, conjugal affection. So we can pause here and just reflect briefly. We can begin by saying that this account of Pradyumna might remind us of a story from the Bible. Anyone? There's a story in the Bible of a prophet who gets swallowed by a fish, and then he remains there for some days, and then comes out again. The fish spits him out, and he goes and preaches, and he tells the people to turn from materialism to faith. That's the story of the prophet Joan, I believe. So a little side bit there. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he tells us in commenting on this section that this demigod Cupid is a partial manifestation of the original prototype Cupid, that is Pradyumna, who is a plenary expansion of Vasudeva. And so the demigod Cupid, he was unable to attain a new body of his own, and so he enters within the form of Pradyumna as he's making his appearance. Souls are all conditioned by this Cupid, by desire, whether it's in material form as Kamadeva or spiritual form, the origin of that principle, that is Pradyumna, who's born as Krishna's son of Rukmini. So who is Rukmini? She is Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She personifies all opulence. And right after his birth, this child of Rukmini is kidnapped by the demoniac attitude, Shambhara. He's a demon, but he also represents the demoniac attitude. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has some interesting comments. He says that renunciants like Lord Mahadev, they try to burn desire. They try to burn Cupid to ashes, which may also cause enjoyment, that is Rati, or the wife of Kamadev, to take shelter among the demons. So then he says, but when regular devotional service arises from Rukmini, she's the goddess of fortune, but she's always serving Lakshmi Sahasrasata Sambrama Sevyamana. So she personifies devotional service. And from Rukmini is born Cupid in the form of Krishna's son. And this is a spiritual Cupid where we are attracted to Krishna. And so the lesson for you and I is that Cupid and desire or attraction and enjoyment can be directed towards the material nature, which is the demoniac mentality, wanting to possess, to control, to dominate, to have, to enjoy, separately from Krishna. Or it can be directed towards the spiritual nature, which is the Vaishnava attitude or mentality. There's a nice prayer. Yuvitanam yuta yuni, yunam cha yuvito yata, manubira mate tadvan, manume ramatam tvayi. Just as young boys or girls are attracted to one another, in the same way, the devotee prays, may my mind always be attracted to you, dear Krishna. And so that is the Vaishnava's prayer. We want to be attracted to Krishna. All right, let's go to the second part then of our discussion. Mayavati reveals Pradyumna's identity, verses 10 to 25. So after some time, Pradyumna, he grows to youthful maturity. He attracts all the women with his beauty. And one day, Rati, or Mayavati, as she's playing the role, approaches Pradyumna, and she moves her eyebrows in a conjugal mood. And addressing her as mother, Pradyumna, he says that she's behaving strangely, like a passionate girlfriend. And then Mayavati, or Rati, tells Pradyumna who they both are. And she advises him that he must kill Sambara and escape, that he's not just the son of the boy of a servant maid, but he is the great, mighty, powerful Pradyumna, and he must escape and take her with him. And she teaches him mystic mantras known as Mahamaya. And this is important because Sambara is a demon and they use magic in their fighting. They don't fight fairly. They use all kinds of tricks. And so she teaches him the Mahamaya mantras. And Pradyumna approaches Sambara. He speaks some insulting words that anger him, challenges Sambara to a fight. And Sambara angrily takes up his club and they march outside. And as predicted, Sambara tries to use all types of magic spells against Pradyumna. But Pradyumna, he fends them off with the Mahamaya mantras that he's received. And using his sword, he beheads the demon Sambara. And in that moment, Rati, the wife of Kamadev, appears in the sky and takes Pradyumna away to Dvaraka. So, life lessons. There's a lot for us to unpack here. Pradyumna, or Cupid, or desire, is able to defeat the demoniac mentality, material attachment, with the help of Rati, the enjoyment or pleasure. And so this is very interesting, and it relates to the Grihastha ashram. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, when regulative devotional service arose, that is Rukmini, then Cupid was reborn as Pradyumna. He then delivered his wife Rati Devi from the clutches of the demoniac nature. He says, the purport of this is that in Yukta Vairagya, regulated lust and attachment are acceptable. Taking help from the teachings of his wife Rati, the most powerful Cupid, Pradyumna, killed Sambara. Very interesting how Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains this story. Let's go to the third section, Pradyumna's return to Dvaraka, verses 26 to 40. When Pradyumna and his wife entered the inner chambers of Krishna's palace, the many beautiful ladies there thought he was Krishna himself. So much did he resemble Krishna's appearance and dress. And out of shyness, the ladies ran here and there to hide themselves. But after a little while, they noticed some differences in Pradyumna and Krishna's appearance. And once they understood that he wasn't Krishna, they came out of hiding and gathered around him. Who is he? They were curious. And when Rukmini Devi saw Pradyumna, she was overwhelmed with maternal, motherly affection, and milk spontaneously flowed from her breasts. And recognizing that Pradyumna looked exactly like Krishna, she became eager to find out who he was. And of course, she remembered that, or she connected this image of this boy with the fact that one of her sons had been abducted from the maternity room at birth. And so she thought, if he's still alive, he would be the same age as this boy standing before me. And while Rukmini was reflecting in this way, Krishna arrived on the scene along with Devaki and Vasudeva, his parents. And although he understood things perfectly well, he remained silent because he wanted someone else to explain what was going on. And that person was Narada Muni, who arrived presently and explained everything to all the people assembled there. Everyone was amazed hearing this account. They rushed forward, they embraced Pradyumna in great ecstasy. And Sukadeva Goswami concludes the chapter by saying that because Pradyumna's beauty so closely resembled Krishna's, the ladies couldn't help thinking of him as their conjugal lover, even though they should have been thinking of him as their son or nephew, because he's the son of Rukmini, their associate. These other ladies are Krishna's other queens. When Pradyumna was kidnapped, then Krishna had one queen, that was Rukmini. But by the time he comes back, Krishna's married other queens as well. And they look at him, they remember Krishna, and there's some conjugal feeling in their hearts because he looked just like Krishna. And so it was, Sukadeva Goswami says, it was natural for them to see him in that way. And so for you and I, we can pause and reflect and just remember that the supreme source and object of desire and pleasure is Krishna. And again, as Vaishnavas, rather than trying to crush desire or enjoyment, to burn it up as Shiva did, the Vaishnava cultivates desire for Krishna and cultivates pleasure, that's rati, in Krishna's service. All the bhavanas that the devotees experience when they engage in devotional service. They see Krishna and or they see something associated with Krishna. That's the vibhav, or the stimuli for ecstatic love. Then anubhavas become manifest. That's the desire to serve. And it might be singing, it might be paying obeisances, it might be fanning Krishna in some way. So many, depending on the stimuli, the vibhav or the udipana, then it may be something related to Krishna or Krishna's own qualities, his beauty, his charm, and so forth. Yeah, then and depending on the relationship, then different desires to serve will awaken in the heart, and then they give rise to sattvika bhavas, hair standing on end, quivering voice, maybe becoming stunned. That happens to some devotees. There was a great king, Bahulashva. He saw Krishna, and he's in Dasyaras. Seeing Krishna is the stimuli, Krishna's form. The vibhav is that he wants to, the anubhav is that he wants to pay 100 obeisances. But after one obeisance, he's stunned. That's the sattvika bhav. He's in ecstasy. And so he can't get past one obeisance. And he's very distressed. So the distress is the sanchari bhav that overwhelms him afterwards. So like this, the devotees are experiencing this bliss, this pleasure, represented in this story as rati, the pleasure in devotional service. And so rather than shutting down the attraction to Krishna and the pleasure that is experienced in devotional service, Krishna also references this. He says, Pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam susukam kartam avyayam. When you engage in devotional service, you will note with your own experience, pratyaksha, your own senses, you will experience joyfulness. There's a symptom of your practice. And so while we're still very conditioned, then we engage our propensity towards desire or attraction and enjoyment through regulated service or by dedicating what we do to Krishna or our attachments to Krishna. That's called aropa siddha bhakti. Aropa means a dedication or a declaration. Krishna, I offer this to you. Krishna, I know you're the source of this. Or Krishna, I know you're the potency behind this. Let me offer it to you. Or sangha siddha, we connect it to Krishna by engaging the propensity or the nature in service. So that's at the conditioned stage. Otherwise, the goal is for Swarup Siddha Bhakti, where everything we do is directly devotional service. It's hearing about Krishna, remembering Krishna, thinking of Krishna, glorifying Krishna, and always being directly associated with Krishna. Now we have a mantra, those who have second initiation, this mantra diksha, then the last of your mantras is directly related to the principles that we are discussing today. The first two words begin with K. And then there's a word that begins with P. So they directly relate to these principles that we are considering. Let's conclude then with a prayer. Beloved Krishna, Cupid, a reflection of your allure, yearns within us as desire, a fragment of Pradyumna, your celestial son, born of the essence of your opulence, Rukmini Devi. Oh, how swiftly the soul, ensnared by Maya, becomes entangled in the coils of the demoniac Sambara, the embodiment of all that veils your light. Mahadev sought to sear desire to cinders, yet even in the pyre, enjoyment embodied in rati took refuge amidst the shadows. Regulative devotional service in the form of Rukmini emerges, a beacon dispelling the darkness, birthing Cupid anew in the form of Pradyumna, your own offspring. Thus, the dance of desire finds its sanctity, directed not to the material but to the spiritual, wherein lies the true sanctum. In the revelation of Pradyumna's identity through Rati, the veil further dissipates. Herein lies the lesson profound. Regulated devotion empowers desire to conquer the demoniac clutches of material attachment. Rati, the consort of Cupid, becomes the guide, steering attention towards the divine. Yukta Vairagya, the regulated lust, finds its sanctum within these hallowed teachings, empowering the most potent of desires, Pradyumna, to vanquish Sambara. Returning to Dvaraka, Pradyumna's journey unveils the ultimate truth. Crush not the desires, but transmute them to devotion. The soul, a pilgrim amidst the realms of desire and enjoyment, finds solace in regulated devotion, wherein desire for you, Krishna, are the eternal sanctuary. We, your aspiring devotees, seek to bind every facet of existence unto you, to consecrate all actions, all moments, all emotions as devotional offerings in your service. All right, so let us acknowledge some of you who joined after I started speaking. Saragrahi is with us. Thank you so much for joining. Saragrahi, great to have your association again. Joining us from Norway. Is that right? Norway or Finland? Sorry, Saragrahi. My memory doesn't always serve me well. Janavamata is with us from Dunedin in the South Island of New Zealand. Janavamata says, Gaurabhaktivinoda Jai. Welcome, Janavamata. Harinam Daya Sindhu joining us from Sydney, Australia says, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Welcome, Harinam. Thank you for joining. Monica Sharma is with us from Sydney. Monica says, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Welcome, Monica. Amy. No, not Amy. Kate joins us from Sydney. Thank you for being here, Kate. Great to have your presence with us. Hare Krishna from Kate in Sydney. Gaurachandra with us in New Zealand says, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for joining, Gaurachandra ji. Janavamata is giving the answer to a question I asked about who was it, which prophet ended up in the fish. And Janavamata says, was it Jonah? Absolutely. And Kirtida has also given the answer here. Jonas in the whale. Yes, whale indeed it was. I said fish, it was a whale. Kirtida says, what is the difference between rati and ruchi? Good question. Rati and ruchi, they are very similar. Rati relates to attachment, and ruchi is the taste that we get in association. So I would say Rati is more associated with Pradyumna, and Ruchi more associated with another personality that we will hear about in time, and that is Aniruddha. There is a very esoteric teaching called Pancharatra, and the Pancharatra agamas, they focus on the Chatur Vyuha, the four manifestations of the Godhead. The first is the Supreme Lord, Narayana or Krishna, and then his Vyuhas are Vasudeva, Shankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And this is very esoteric, but let me just briefly give you a sense. Vasudeva refers to awareness, the awareness of the soul. So the original awareness or consciousness is Vasudeva, or the Vasudeva principle, that's pure consciousness. He presides over that awareness within us. He is personified pure consciousness, and then he presides over that Vasudeva state within purified souls, sages. Chaitana, or the Chitta, relates to this awareness. Then there is Shankarshana, and this relates to the identity. Balaram is Shankarshana, and the identity is of service, the service identity. Otherwise, in the material world, it is corrupted as ahankara, the false identity, where we identify, where consciousness now identifies. Vasudeva comes to identify under the Shankarshana principle of the false ego, the corrupted Shankarshana principle of false ego. We identify as a frog or a dog or a snake or as a human, male, female, Australian, American, and so on. Then the third of the Chaturvyuha is Pradyumna, and that is desire, what we desire, what we want, what we aspire towards. So attraction, pure attraction is to Krishna. Pure identity is Krishna Das. Pure attraction is to Gopinath. And then in the material nature, as conditioned beings, then our attraction is perverted towards the things of this world based on our ego, our corrupt false ego, corrupted Shankarshana principle, still under his jurisdiction, but it is perverted for conditioned souls. And so the Pradyumna principle perverted is as Cupid. Based on our false ego, then we desire different things. The frog wants a fly, the dog wants a bone, and so on and so forth. The cat wants a rat. We think that these things will make us happy. And then so then the fourth principle is that happiness that we think we will get from these things, and it is under the jurisdiction of Aniruddha. Aniruddha will also appear in Krishna's pastimes, and we will discuss his pastimes as the son of Pradyumna. So from achieving the goal, then there is some taste that we want, some happiness. So that real taste is the pure consciousness. Then that real taste is loving devotional service, the bliss that comes in devotional service. We call it ruchi. So nama ruchi, we say Krishna's name and we taste Krishna's beauty, Krishna's fame, Krishna's wisdom. We taste it when we say that name. So that is the Aniruddha principle. It is under the jurisdiction of Aniruddha. Great question, Kirtina. Hopefully my response was helpful. Otherwise, we can think of these four. Just to go back, one last thought for you. Hopefully not more confusing. Chitta, pure consciousness, Vasudeva principle, Ahankara, consciousness, the under Shankarshana, and then the Pradyumna is Buddhi. So Chitta, Ahankara, Buddhi, and Manas. Aniruddha, Manas, the mind, the enjoyment we experience in our mind, that thing that we believe will make us happy, that happiness or distress is in the mind. It's raining today, I'm distressed. Because in my mind, I think rain is bad. But if in my mind, I think rain is good, if I'm a farmer and I want it to rain, and I think, we need rain. So when it rains, I'm happy. So the mind makes me feel happiness or distress. So we can conquer the mind with buddhi, with attachment, where we say, rain, it's not good or bad. It's just rain. It's just sunshine. It's just that I'm late, or it's just that I'm early, or it's just that someone didn't write to me. So rather than interpreting on the mental platform, we bring it back to the buddhi and just observe what it is. So Manas, Aniruddha, Buddhi, Pradyumna, what we want, what our goal is, how we want to get it. But then that will be informed by our Hankara, ego, identity, under Shankarshana. And then the highest level, the purest level, is just conscious awareness. The yogi who can get beyond the mind, intelligence, and ego is at the level of pure chitta, or pure consciousness. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says how we can do this. He says, Cheto darpana marjanam bhavamaha navagni nirvapanam. Just by chanting Krishna's name, you will clean things up at the level of Chaitana, at the level of the chitta. All the deep-rooted conceptions will be cleared away, bypassing manas, buddhi, ahankara. The holy name is working at the level of chitta, or consciousness, conscious awareness. Okay, that was a complicated response. I apologize. To a wonderful question of the difference between rati and ruchi. Janavamata says, thank you as always for keeping us inspired by relishing the nectar of Krishna Katha. Just wondering, Lord Shiva is known as the greatest of Vaishnava, yet he can still become affected by lust. What hope is there for us? What's the secret? Yeah, to give Lord Shiva credit, when Shiva becomes overwhelmed by lust. So the Bhagavatam example is that he chases after Mohini, right? It's Krishna. Krishna in the form of his, the most beautiful woman. And when Shiva chases after her in front of his wife Parvati, he comes back and he's not embarrassed. He actually laughs and he says to Parvati, you see how powerful Krishna is, and how wonderful he is, that he was able to bewilder even me. So there's no shame on Shiva's part when he chases after Mohini Murti. Otherwise, affected by lust in relation to Parvati, I don't think so. He associates with her, but I don't think he's affected by lust as such. He's so powerful. But yeah, what hope do we have? I mean, Brahma did become overwhelmed by lust. And so we can wonder, what hope do we have? We have little hope on our own strength. If it's up to us, no hope. If it's up to Krishna's mercy, the mercy of Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas, then yes, they're very powerful. They are our hope. Without their mercy, then we have no hope. So what is our process? Take shelter. Hold on tight to the lotus feet of Sri Guru, Vaishnavas, and they bring us to the grace of Sri Hari. And then what is impossible? Krishna is so great. His power is so great that what is impossible? For a little sparrow taking water, drops of water from the ocean to dry it up, impossible. But seeing the efforts of that sparrow, Garuda decides to intervene and help. And when Garuda gets involved, then the ocean knows, now I'm in trouble, because Garuda is certainly capable of this. And so our process is to make an effort and to invoke the grace of Krishna and his devotees, and with their grace, then we have hope. Yeah. So yeah, our way is to just to show that that's what we want. Krishna won't impose. So we need to keep telling him, my dear Lord Krishna, although I've forgotten you for so many long years, today I'm surrendering unto you. I am your sincere and serious servant. Please accept me. When we say this to Krishna, then we come under his shelter. We come under his protection. But we still need to keep reminding him, because he won't force. He won't force us. We have to hold up both arms in full surrender and say, Krishna, I'm reaching out to you. I'm not resisting. I'm not holding back. And when Krishna knows that we are sincere in this, then he will do everything. One step on our side and thousands of steps from Krishna's side. And we saw that. That was one of the points we drew out of the story of Rukmini and Krishna. She reached out to him with her message, and she told him how to come and take her, how to come and have her. And then with that outreach from Rukmini's side, then Krishna, he made so many steps to reciprocate. He mounted his chariot. He journeyed from Dwaraka to Vidarbha. He went in front of all the great kings and took Rukmini up onto his chariot and carried her away. That's the secret. Thank you again for your question. There's Sahagra. I asked where you were from. Thank you, Finland. I'll remember. Namachintamani is with us. Namachintamani says, Hare Krishna, Sri Prahlad, my obeisances to you and all the assembled devotees. It's great to be able to attend this class live after a long time. Question, could you please explain how the concept of expansions work? It blows my mind how a soul can expand or partially expand into a form, or expansions of two souls be in one body. I hope the question makes sense. Yeah, it blows our minds. Blows my mind as well. So it seems Krishna's expansions are clear to you. I mean, as clear as can be. You have a sense of, to many, that's also very confusing, but by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, we have nice explanations of the hierarchy. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. He is the original personality of Godhead. From him is expanding Maturnath, Dwarkanath, or Dwarkadish, Vaikuntanath. So we understand the hierarchy there and the relationships, and it doesn't confuse us. Vaikuntanath is then expanding as Karana Dakashayi Vishnu, Garbo Dakashayi Vishnu, Kshir Dakashayi Vishnu, Karana Dakashayi Vishnu, giving birth to universes, Garbo Dakashayi Vishnu entering into each one of them and giving rise to the lotus, in which the universe expands with 14 planetary systems. And then Kiradakashaya Vishnu the maintainer residing in the ocean of milk, but expanded within every living being has Paramatma within every atom, between every atom. And then between him and Karuna Dakashay Vishnu, then there are further Lila avatars that appear. So I think that's mostly clear for us. Rama, Narasimha, Varaha, and so on, they're all expansions of the maintainer of the universe, Kira Dakashay Vishnu, or the other Purusha avatars. And sometimes they're appearing not as Lila avatars, but as Avesh. That is where they empower a Jiva soul with their potency. And because of that Jiva souls being empowered by Krishna to represent Krishna or with Krishna's potency in a particular sphere, they're also considered as incarnations. So this starts to get a bit confusing. Like Prithu Maharaj, we refer to him in the Bhagavatam as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's a Jiva soul who is Avesh, who is empowered. Or Parasharam, he's also listed in the Dasa Avatara of Jayadev Goswami, his list of 10. Or in Bhagavatam lists of the Leela avatars, Parasharam also appears there. But he is a Jiva who is empowered with Krishna's potency to punish miscreant Kshatriyas. And so he's a Leela avatar, but also a Shaktya Avesha avatar as well. Similarly, Nard Muni, he's also empowered with Bhakti Shakti. So he's a Jiva. But then we don't think of him as the Lord, we think of him as a devotee. But he's also a Shakti Avesh avatar, like Prithu Maharaj or Parasharam. So these, I agree with you, these kind of dual Jiva with the Lord incarnations, they're a bit confusing. And then further confusing is when one soul is empowered with the potency of maybe two devotees. So there might be Avesh for Prahlad Maharaj and Brahma, as Hiranyakashipu, as is suggested in relation to Haridas Thakur. Or Ramananda Rai is said to be sometimes as Arjuna, Krishna's friend, because he was Lord Chaitanya's friend, but then also said to be Vishaka, the friend of Srimati Radharani, who also instructs Radharani in the art of jealous anger, and so ends up instructing Lord Chaitanya in Radha Tattva. So this becomes a bit confusing for us. And the way, so it's difficult for the rational mind to make sense of that. The way it makes sense to me is I understand it as a type of empowerment, whether those devotees are personally appearing, two of them in one body, or whether it's one soul being empowered with the potency of two or three devotees. That makes a bit more sense to me. I don't have a definitive answer for you, but I would just say that that's what makes sense to me. In Chaitanya Lila, then the devotees become aware that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. And so as they become aware of his divinity as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then they start to postulate who are, like if Krishna's here, then the associates of Krishna must also be here. So his parents must be Vasudeva and Devaki, or are they Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj? And so Jagannath Mishra, Satri Devi, generally they're understood to be Nanda and Yasoda. And then, who are the other associates? So devotees, they start to try to make sense of Lord Chaitanya and his appearance. Initially, they think of him as Gaura Narayan. The earliest biographies, they're describing him as Narayan, the Supreme Lord Narayan. And so they're thinking of him in that way. But then as Lord Chaitanya's pastimes continue, there's a deeper revelation in Ramananda Rai, the insight that he is the dual incarnation of Radha and Krishna. And Swarup Damodar Goswami confirms this, and this becomes the Goswami teaching, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahi Anya. And so devotees are making sense of Lord Chaitanya, and they're making sense of his associates and identifying different associates based on their nature and qualities and characteristics. And so you have Kavi Karnapura giving us lists of the associates of Lord Chaitanya and then who they are in Krishna Lila based on his realization. And that could also be why you get some differences of opinion. So Kavi Karnapura, he's also not always 100% definitive. He will say, some say this, some say that. Some say he's Brahma, some say, others say he's Prahlad. So that's also a way that you could, a rationalist way that you can understand this as well. You just see the role they play in the pastime and then understand that's how the devotees arrived at this insight. Oh, Lord Chaitanya's friend, Arjuna, because Arjuna is Krishna's friend. Lord Chaitanya's friend in the mood of Srimati Radharani, oh, has to be Vishaka or Lalita, because she has two very close friends. But then Vishaka gives instruction, and so therefore there are differences of opinion among the devotees as well. Hopefully that helps. Good question there, Namachintamani. Here we go. Kirtida says, grateful. Thank you. Thank you, Kirtida. I'm grateful to you for your presence and engagement. Shama Manjari says, thank you, Prabhuji. Amazing class. Thank you, Shama Manjari. Saragrahi says, beautiful explanation of the Chaturvyuha. Thank you very much, Saragrahi. Inspired, I can say, by, if you want to read more, third canto, the teachings of Lord Kapila. He also says a few things that can be a starting point for further reflection. Janavamata says, thank you very much for always giving us hope. So technically speaking, Lord Shiva wasn't experiencing lust because he was chasing after Krishna. Mohini Murti, question mark, question mark. Yes, lust, but it was in relation to Krishna. So he wasn't ashamed, and his wife wasn't disturbed either. They actually, Lord Shiva glorifies Krishna for how he was able to bewilder him, because generally that's thought to be impossible. So if it was possible, it was Krishna who could achieve that. So lust, yeah, he did experience lust, but it was the focus of that lust was Krishna himself in the form of this bewildering mohini, bewildering form. Moha is bewilderment. And so this bewildering form of the Lord caused even Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, he asked Krishna, he said, Krishna, I heard that during the churning of the milk ocean, you manifested this amazingly beautiful form. I would like to see it. And then a few minutes later, a girl walked past bouncing a ball, and her garments were loose, and then a wind came and blew them away. And the girl was smiling, looking at Lord Shiva, and then turning away, and it agitated his mind. He was overwhelmed by lust. He chased after her and completely lost control over himself in front of his wife and all of his followers. And then at some point, he got control over himself, like after the fact, he got control over himself. And then he laughed and smiled, and he came back to Parvati and said, you just see the potency of the Lord, how great is his potency. Yeah, quite wonderful. Janavamata says, I read recently where Srila Prabhupada says that even Nityasiddhas can also expand and be in many places at once. Any insight? Yeah, that's interesting. So yogis, they're able to expand. That's one of the siddhis. I can't remember which the Sanskrit name. Anima, Mahima, Laghima, and so forth. becoming smaller than the smallest, becoming bigger than the biggest. So yeah, one of them is to be able to expand as well and be in different places at once. And so by Krishna's arrangement, devotees can also do this. They can have premonitions, they can have visions of the future, they can say things that are prophetic. Even without being conscious of it, Krishna can arrange to vocalize through them for the benefit of others. So yeah, Krishna can arrange that. More, yeah, I can't say more than that. And then Namachintamani says, thank you for all your insights, Prabhu. Very helpful. Great. Okay, thank you all very much for being here. I wish you well. May you be healthy. May you be peaceful in your hearts. May you have loving relationships with devotees. May you deepen your taste for chanting the holy name, for hearing and discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. May you deepen your attachment for service to Sri Vigraha, the deity. May you deepen your attachment for Krishna's place of pastimes, the holy Dham. And may you deepen your attachment for serving Vaishnavas, because it is from service to Vaishnavas that all these other gifts are given to us. And with that, may your heart soften such that you are impelled to share these treasures with others. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktarinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Haribol.